What if one day, half the world's population just disappeared? Not a warning, no goodbye, just poof, gone. 7 billion people turned into 3.5. Cities left half empty, roads eerily quiet, governments scrambling to understand what just happened. Who's gone? Is it random? Did only one gender vanish? Maybe just the young or the old? Or maybe it's like some twisted cosmic joke. Exactly half of every family, every workplace, every friend group is suddenly missing. No logic, no pattern, just chaos. The first few minutes would be pure confusion. Phones blowing up with unanswered calls, social media flooded with frantic messages. Where did my mom go? My boss disappeared in the middle of a Zoom call. Is this some kind of prank? But then reality sets in. This isn't a prank. This isn't a dream. Half of humanity is actually gone. Then the real problems begin. Think about the planes. There are over 8,000 in the sky at any given moment. If half the pilots disappear, that's thousands of planes suddenly flying without a captain. Air traffic controllers? Cut in half. Some planes will crash. Others will be circling, waiting for an answer that never comes. And the passengers? Those who weren't among the vanished will be stuck in midair, wondering if they're ever going to land. Hospitals? A nightmare. Half the doctors, nurses, and surgeons gone. People mid-surgery, suddenly left unattended. Patients on ventilators with no one left to monitor them. ERs overwhelmed with injuries, illnesses, and complete and utter panic. And what about power plants? Water treatment facilities? Nuclear reactors? If the wrong people disappear, entire grids could fail. Without engineers and operators, some power stations could shut down, leaving millions in darkness. Others, like nuclear plants, could spiral into catastrophe. Imagine entire cities going dark, food spoiling in abandoned grocery stores, water systems breaking down, and no one left to fix them. Law enforcement barely hanging on. The ones left will be stretched thin, trying to control riots, looting, and desperate people who have lost everything. And governments, the US president, world leaders, military officials, how many of them are still here? Would countries descend into chaos? New leaders could rise overnight, power vacuums filled by whoever can grab control first. And that's just the first 24 hours. The second wave of disaster starts within days. Food supply chains? Completely broken. Half the farmers, truck drivers, warehouse workers, gone. Stores won't be restocked. Fresh food will rot. And guess what happens when people get desperate? They take what they need. Grocery stores ransacked, gas stations emptied, homes broken into. And speaking of gas stations, there's another issue: oil refineries and fuel distribution. A logistical nightmare. Without enough workers, fuel shortages start within weeks. No deliveries, no transportation, no movement. And then there's the economy. Global markets would collapse overnight. Companies lose half their employees and half their customers in an instant. Billion-dollar industries could crumble in days. The internet might stay up for a while, but with fewer engineers to maintain servers, how long before it starts to fall apart? Social media would become an online graveyard, frozen in time with billions of last messages, unanswered calls, and desperate attempts to find missing loved ones. But here's a fun question. What happens to relationships? Your best friend? Gone. Your partner? Vanished. Your annoying coworker? Maybe they're still around just to make your life miserable. The entire dating scene? Decimated. And what about twin siblings? Is it possible that one twin would stay while the other disappears? And what about children? Would schools still function? Would there be enough teachers, or would education collapse completely? If too many adults disappear, would the world become a place where children have to fend for themselves, like some real-life dystopian movie? Some people would turn to science for answers. Is this a quantum event? A shift in reality? Did half of humanity phase into another dimension? Others would turn to religion. Is this the rapture? Some kind of divine judgment? Is there a way to bring people back? As the weeks stretch into months, the survivors would have to rebuild. Cities would be repurposed, massive skyscrapers turned into half-empty husks, entire suburbs abandoned because there just aren't enough people to live in them anymore. Farmland would become invaluable. Growing food wouldn't be a choice, it would be survival. And then, society would start reshaping itself. New power structures would emerge. Small communities would form, trading and bartering, replacing money in some areas. Maybe the world becomes less globalized, nations focusing on their own survival rather than international politics. One interesting outcome? the job market would be, well, interesting. Imagine suddenly being promoted, not because you're great at your job, but because your entire management team vanished. One day you're making coffee runs, the next you own the company. Hey, congratulations on your new CEO position. Don't mess it up. And on a more serious note, how do we deal with all the stuff left behind? Millions of empty homes, cars with no drivers, entire apartment buildings with half their tenants gone. But here's something no one thinks about: pets. Half the world's pets now have no owners. Millions of dogs and cats roaming the streets, abandoned in homes, waiting for someone who will never return. Would we have to form rescue teams just to take care of them? Years down the line, humanity would look very different. Fewer people means less pollution, more resources per person, and maybe, just maybe, a better quality of life for those left behind. But the scars would last forever. Every survivor would remember the day half the world disappeared, the day everything changed. Now here's the real question. What if it happened again? Before you go, make sure to subscribe. Because trust me, you don't want to miss the next time we explore the unthinkable.